In just a moment, we're going to tie all this together, but first I want to give you an overview of what's going on, followed by the facts, the details. What's going on is there was a law in New York City. Notice I said was past tense. There was a law in New York City that would have allowed non-citizens to participate in municipal elections. And there are a lot of non-citizens in New York City. We're talking hundreds of thousands. We'll get to that in just a moment. But that law was struck down by an appellate court. Okay, here are the details. First of all, New York Appeals Court ruled against a law permitting non-citizens to vote in municipal elections. I already said that. Second, the Appellate Division found the law violated the state constitution and municipal home rule law, which I assume is a state law. Number 3, the decision nullified that law, which is identified as law number 11, passed in 2022 and enacted by Mayor Eric Adams. Number 4, the lawsuit plaintiffs. These included Representative, notice these are Greek names, maybe they're Italian, I don't know. Representative Malliotakis and New York City Republican leader Joe Borelli. Okay, I think the first one is Greek and the second one is Italian, maybe. Malliotakis rather sounds Greek. That has nothing to do with anything. Number 5, Malliotakis hailed the decision as preserving election integrity and the voice of American citizens, and indeed it did. Number 6, the ruling echoed a previous decision by a New York Supreme Court justice back in 2022, way back 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. Number 7, the law would have allowed, I'm pausing for emphasis, you ready for this? The law would have allowed an estimated 800,000 non-citizens to vote in New York City elections. If you had 800,000 people, that would alone comprise a major city. Maybe not anywhere near as New York or Chicago, but still, that's a major city. And that's just the number of non-citizens that are in New York. So that many people no longer are allowed to vote in New York City. I'm not sure that they ever were. And then finally, Mayor Eric Adams initially expressed concerns for the law, but once, it was obvious that the council wanted it passed, I guess, he supported the law upon enactment. All right, what do we do with this? What do we make of all this? How do we tie all this together? Well, there's a couple things we need to keep in mind. The Democrats like to say that every vote counts. That's their mantra. That's one of the ways that they try to sell us on including non-citizens, because every vote counts. They're here. They participate in daily life, things like shopping and working and beating up police officers. Their vote counts. Does every vote count? I mean, seriously, if you're 3 years old, does your vote count? No, then every vote doesn't count. What about if you're dead? Well, it depends on how long you've been dead. What if you've been dead 200 years? Does your vote count? No, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't matter how long you've been dead. Your vote doesn't count if you've been dead. So anytime you hear the Democrats say every vote counts, understand what they mean is we need to include non-citizens in the electoral process because non-citizens overwhelmingly, or at least disproportionately, tend to vote for Democrats. That's the only reason they're doing this. I absolutely positively guarantee you if these people were voting for Republicans, they would be against it. Suddenly, every vote counts would not be their mantra. For example, we know that in areas like Miami, Florida as a whole, that Cubans tend to support Republicans because they are averse to extreme leftism, otherwise known as communism, which, by the way, is a misnomer, but that's another story, having come out of Cuba. The other thing we've already talked about is this thing with 800,000 votes. Now, let's zero in on this for just a moment. What's the whole idea of having open borders, of allowing non-citizens to come into the country? Well, the idea is to pad the voting, voting books or whatever. They want to get as many people, Democrats want to get as many people voting for them as possible, and they're willing to go to all kinds of expense to do this, providing it's taxpayers' money. So they bring in hundreds of thousands, literally non-citizens, just into this one city. I mean, millions into the United States. I think there's since Biden has been president, there's been something akin to 7 million non-citizens, uninvited guests come across the border with Mexico. Now think about that for a moment. 7 million. The state of Indiana, total population is fewer than 7 million. There are 33 states in the United States that have a population of less than 7 million. And that's how many people, a whole state worth of people have come in. So it's kind of like the Democrats, they got a whole new state voting for them if they can get these people on the voter registration logs, whatever you call it. All right, so this is a waste of taxpayer money. Huge waste of taxpayer money.
Huge.
Bringing all these
Not a bad
people in
one.
just so they can pad the voting polls, booth, whatever. And again, it's taxpayer money, and they don't care. They just don't care. But now they're stuck with it. And it's not just, the cost of getting them here, but the cost of crime. Not all non-citizens are criminals, but disproportionately they seem to be committing a lot of crime, particularly in New York City. The subway problems. I don't want to go to New York City. I don't want to get on the subway, and that's another difficulty they're having where these people are concentrated. Non-citizens are concentrated because these cities have this policy of not prosecuting non-citizens, sanctuary cities they call them. That's where they go, and what do? They run off business, And sometimes the Democrats are so dumb, they run off business intentionally. Who is that presidential candidate that they said couldn't do business in New York State for 3 years if they get their way? They're running off business. Okay, they're Marxists. They don't care. I mean, they don't have a mind for business. They don't know how economies work. So basically, it's a waste of money. They're burdened by these people. Many of them are homeless. These are not doctors and lawyers and people who are going to be upwardly mobility. No, they're not going to go to work and pay for your Social Security, which is another thing Democrats keep telling us. So it was struck down by the appeals court. It's dead and gone, and they're going to have to change the state constitution to get this done. Now, another thing we need to think of as we tie this together is if this happens in New York City, where else is it happening? My guess is that, I don't know what the constitutions are in other states, but there need to be laws passed in red states, if they're not there already, and I'm guessing most of them already have them, that explicitly state that non-citizens can't vote anywhere in that state for any reason, just like they were children, or just like they were dead, or just like they were non-citizens. They can't vote in those states. I think red states need to focus on that, double down on it, not just because of it's ethical, because it's the right thing to do, but also because that gives them a leg up, so to speak, economically. So these people coming to your state is going to cost it's going to deplete your budget, better way to say it. I was going to say it's going to cost your taxpayers a ton of money, which it is. But it's going to deplete the budgets of these blue states. What's going to happen is everybody's going to want to move to red states. What do you call people who move from blue states to red states? Call them migrants? I mean, isn't that effectively what's going on? These people, 7 million of them in the last few years since Biden's been in the White House, have come from their place to our place because our place is better. Red states are better than blue states, so they're going to do it again. Refugees coming from blue states to red states. How do you stop this? Well, first of all, you realize that the blue states are doing something wrong. like being socialist, like having all these welfare programs which damage the economy, and overall they actually hurt more than they help. Same thing that's happening south of the border, same thing that's happening in virtually every Marxist state, socialist state. When I say state, I mean nation or country. Marxism causes, socialism causes refugees to want to get out of the mess they're in. Who blames them? I mean, I've said this in other videos. If I lived south of the border, I would have been here 10, 20 years ago. I'd been one of the first ones to climb over the border. Okay, that would have been back in the 50s when I was a little baby, but that's beside the point. All right, so the good news is the New York Appeals Court did the right thing. The mayor and the city council did the wrong thing, and now they're having to pay for it. Okay, taxpayers are having to pay for it. These guys are going to resign, probably retire in luxury or near to it. They don't care. They didn't get their way, so they'll move on to doing something else harmful. Thanks for stopping by. We will see you all next time.